So we have to go back a couple of turns because at the end of Russia's turn we forgot a very important step. Now that they are at war, they're eligible for Lend-Lease. So we're going to roll a die. They got a 4. So that means either a destroyer in C-Zone 127 or 5 IPCs for the Pacific. I think they'll take the 5 IPCs for the Pacific. So we'll just add 5 IPCs to Russia's total. So they had 46. They're going to have 51 instead. So just a bit of an adjustment there of the Russia turn for the Lend-Lease. Okay, this is U.S. turn 4 and China. China only has 5 IPCs to spend. They're going to spend 4 on a new cavalry unit and save $1 for the next turn. The Americans have 70 to spend. They have to spend 5 to gain their tech. And their tech will come into play in this turn. We'll mention that on non-combat. They're going to purchase a port and a minor factory for $27. They're going to purchase 2 aircraft carriers for 32, and they're going to purchase 2 infantry for 6. The Americans have no attacks this round. We thought about it. We thought about either an attack on the home island, which probably, well, almost certainly would have failed, and also thought about an attack into the Japanese naval elements in C-Zone 6. But it's just close enough to be probably a losing proposition. The idea initially was to bring these 3 planes because, again, the tech that the Americans have is improved carriers. So these would have held 3, but these guys can't make it to C-Zone 6 in order to do that. So they will have to settle for some other plans. Okay, but the Chinese do have an attack. They're going to try and take out the Japanese elements in Sichuan, and they're going to come in with 3 infantry from Shanxi, and infantry from Xikang, and the fighter from Kansu. So we'll set that up and roll it out. In a battle for Sichuan, the Chinese are coming in with 4 ground units, infantry, and the American Flying Tiger fighter. 1 hit. So the infantry's dead. Japanese are defending with infantry, artillery, and tactical bomber. 1 hit. Two hits, so battle's won. 1 hit. So the Chinese take the territory and only lose 2 infantry in the process. Okay, non-combat. The Americans are going to take one of their transports. They're going to load up an infantry and a tank. And they're going to move down to C-Zone 86 and grab Brazil and activate the lone remaining infantry that is standing there and pick up a couple of bucks. In the Pacific, I thought about a couple of things. I thought about backing them up into C-Zone 8 and putting them all into Alaska where the new factory is going. But then I thought that they could remain a thorn in the side of the Japanese by going into C-Zone 5, offloading all their infantry and ground units into Amur, and suddenly being a major pain in the butt for Japan all of a sudden on the ground, and leaving a fairly substantial navy there as well. The other thing is that these 3 planes, the 2 tactical bombers and the fighter, are going to fly up to C-Zone 5 and land on the enhanced carriers, which they can do now. And finally, the 2 infantry in Hawaii are going to get on an air transport and make their way to Amur as well. So the Americans will have a fairly substantial presence in the Eastern Soviet Union. In terms of China, They're going to move 1 infantry into Shenxi. They're going to move 3 infantry into Suiyuan, and the fighter is going to land in Suiyuan. So that should be that. So I'll tidy up and come back with placements. Alright, placements for the Americans. They have an infantry to place in the eastern United States. One last non-combat move. The fighter that was in the eastern United States is going to land on the new carrier that's being built here. If we come over to the Pacific side of the board, they will build a carrier in C-Zone 10. They will add an infantry. And then over in Alaska, they're going to build a factory and a port. Okay. The Chinese in Suiyuan are going to build their new cavalry. Okay, in terms of income, there's only one adjustment to make to the tracker, and that's down here. The United States is taking Brazil for 2. Oh, sorry, no, there's more. And the Chinese are taking back Sichuan for 2. So, if we go to the income tracker, the Americans go up 2 at the expense of nobody because Brazil wasn't attached to anybody. The Chinese go from 3 to 5, and the Japanese go from 53 to 51. And actually that loses them their empire victory point. Okay, so income. China has a raw income of 5. They kept an IPC from last turn, so they're going to put 6 IPCs in the treasury, enough to buy 2 infantry next turn. The Americans now have a base IPC total of 52, and they have 3 national objectives. They have the one where they've built at least 2 units on each coast, and that's 5 IPCs per coast, so that's 10. They get 5 for all of the various Pacific islands, and they get 5 for the Central American territories as well. So they're going to put $72 in their coffer for next turn. Okay, in terms of disposition of forces, we'll start over here with the Americans. In Washington, in the eastern United States, there are 4 infantry, 3 mechanized infantry, and 2 AA guns. In C-Zone 101, there are 2 destroyers, a cruiser, a carrier, and a fighter. In C-Zone 86, there is a transport. And in Brazil, there is a tank, and there are 2 infantry. In the western United States, there are 2 anti-aircraft guns. There are 3 infantry total, 2 Pacific Marines, and 1 U.S. Army from the Atlantic side. In C-Zone 10, there is an empty carrier. In C-Zone, I think it's 5. This one here, anyway, I think it's 5. There are 3 very fully loaded carriers, because remember, that is their improved tech. So they can fit 3 planes on each carrier, and each carrier has 2 fighters and a tactical bomber on board. They also have in this C-Zone 6 transports, a battleship, 2 cruisers, and 3 destroyers. In Amur, we'll back up a little bit. In Amur, there is a strategic bomber that is currently designated an air transport. There are 8 infantry. Oh, sorry, my bad. 9 infantry. Because 2 of them came over here. 9 infantry, 1 mechanized infantry, 3 artillery, and 1 tank. Along, of course, with a Russian unit there. I think that's all the Americans on the board. In terms of China, they have 3 infantry, and cavalry, and the American Volunteer Flying Tigers in Suiyuan. They have an infantry in Shanxi, and they have 2 infantry in Sichuan. So that's the extent of the Chinese forces. So that's it. UK is up next.